Hi, I'm Mark, the Christian gun owner. I'm out here today to make just a quick video for some real-world training that we can do with our firearms, because many gun owners often have a tendency to kind of kid themselves about what they can or cannot do with their gun as far as protecting themselves. Now, obviously, if I see somebody coming, they've got a weapon, they're coming at me, I've got plenty of time, they're coming this way, I can get my gun out, I can shoot, then I can probably stop somebody from doing grave bodily harm to me, my family, or bystanders. But what we often neglect is not thinking about, because we want to carry a gun, we want to exercise our rights, we want the right to self-defense, but we often don't consider how little effect that gun would be if we couldn't get to it. If we were attacked in such a way to where that gun was not accessible immediately, or if we had some type of close quarters combative situation where somebody attacks us and we're having to defend ourselves with our hands up close, where we didn't have time to get a gun out. Somebody standing 20 feet, a healthy man standing 20 feet away from me, if I've got my gun in a holster under my shirt, that man 20 feet away from me can take off running at me and be right here before I can get that gun out, get it on target, and stop him. And in many cases, a lot of wind, in many cases, something like that would just simply result in me getting my gun out, possibly getting a couple shots off and hitting that person, but them still getting to me and doing significant harm to me with a knife or a club or whatever they're carrying. So what's really important for us to do is that, in spite of the fact that we may carry a gun, it's important for us to keep our physical fitness up to date, and to stay strong, to stay as flexible as possible, to keep our reflexes sharp, and to be able, in a situation where we're about to be attacked or accosted in some way, to be able to move out, and even if we have to, in a close quarters situation, be able to cover, fight back, move away, and even get to our firearm. And I'm going to be showing you today, I'm going to give you a couple of ideas about how to get proficient in covering and pulling your firearm at the same time, firing and moving away from someone who may be attacking you. Now, please understand, this doesn't make you a street ninja warrior capable of leaping tall buildings in a single bound. This is something to get proficient with movements, to be proficient at and practiced at understanding where your arm needs to be. I'll show you here in just a couple of minutes what we'll be doing. But again, this is because so often we forget that gun here doesn't do us any good until we can get to it, pull it, shoot, whatever the threat is, and make that threat stop. Then that gun hadn't done any good until we can do that. And too often, it's going to be a situation where you may be accosted, you may be attacked right up close to where you don't even have a chance to reach for that gun, much less get it out. So, this is about proficiency, learning moves so that in that scenario, at least you're practiced at moving and doing what you need to do, where you have to fight and then get to your firearm. Show you some practice drills here in just a moment. Always training with our guns and never training for other types of self-defense is a serious mistake in the world of self-defense, because, as I mentioned just a minute ago, this person has run up on me. Now, I have a gun here, what I've got, just so everybody's okay, this is a cleared Glock 23 with no magazine in it. This is a berm around me, and I am in a pistol bay here. So this is safe here. But what I'm going to do right now is just show you, if you've ever watched, maybe some of you have been in martial arts, maybe some of you have been in any kind of mixed martial arts fighting, you've seen the way that they cover their face when they get in close and they have to fight up close. The same thing applies when you may be attacked by someone. You may need to access your firearm, but you can't get to it yet because somebody here is pummeling you. So what I'm going to be doing here is going through a drill to try to get proficient, but with both covering as though I were having to fight somebody off with my hands, and yet still having to go for my firearm. So this is the way this would go. So I got somebody coming at me here. He's punching hard, doing this. Covering your head here and still being able to see is important. So covering, giving them less target this way. Sometimes you may just have to cover from the front according to whatever you're doing with this hand. Another way that you may have to cover is like this, grabbing your shoulder and covering by putting your elbow out at this angle, covering the side of your head. If something's being swung at you from either way, you may have to cover your head. You may have to do these type moves to keep somebody from beating you half to death, beating you around your head, shoulders, and neck with something, or even with their hands if they're huge, and still need to be able to get to your firearm. So what I'm going to be doing is going through a series of drills, and this is where you practice right here. This doesn't mean that in a real world encounter it's going to turn you into a super fighter. It gets you proficient at the movements so you recognize those when they may really happen if the unthinkable took place. In this case, I'll be drawing my weapon. I have to clear this. I've got it in an inside the waistband holster. I'd have to, if I was protecting myself here, I'd have to clear this without using this hand, because I can't tell this guy, wait just a minute while I get my shirt up. So now I'm in a violent, potentially deadly encounter. Somebody is attacking me. I'm having to cover with my hand. I've got to get my gun out. If I'm going to use my gun, I got to get it out with this hand without the assistance of this one, which I would normally do this with, but in this case I can't. So I've got to cover here, covering here or here, and I've got to get this gun out. And once I get it clear, what do I do with it? Well, first of all, I don't want to start just backing up and shooting in every direction, because you may have people out in the area, houses, cars, or a combination of those, and you sure don't want to be doing it with your arm flailing out here and shoot yourself in the arm or hand. So when that gun comes out, what you want to do is you want to keep that as tight and close as possible, and keep it pointed in a direction that will minimize any damage around you, and keep it away from your hand. So what we're going to be doing is pulling it up and back and keeping it high, keeping our hand up here in a defensive position where if I had to cover here or if I had to cover here, I could do it with this hand, while keeping this under control and using it to shoot low at the attacker rather than just flailing and shooting. I'll show you what it looks like. Now our drill is going to be this. The drill is going to be covering, drawing to a tight position, keeping the gun tight to your body and letting your body do the aiming while keeping your face and head covered, keeping this tight to here and making the target in this part of the attacker, the groin area. What you want to do is move this guy back away from you and be able to move away from them yourself. If they're attacking you, holding you, trying to beat you down, this is to move them away. The idea is to shoot, step back, moving your target back at the same time, because you're firing into this groin area, shooting again, keeping it low, getting control of it then, beginning to shoot, and then getting full control of it as you step further back. And again. By the time you step back in the fourth step, you should have full control of the gun. It's being careful to keep the gun tight here, keep your guard up, get control here, get control, full control as you step. That's just one of a lot of ways that you can train to gain proficiency in specific movements. Just this, bringing it up, firing tight, tight, control, full control. That's the way that works. This guard here, this guard here, shooting, keeping it tightly under control in a very, very confined spot, and gaining full control while moving an attacker away from you and moving away from the attacker. Training for something besides just shooting somebody from a distance may be the very factor that saves your or somebody else's life someday. Mark Rogers, Christian gun owner. Until next time, I'll see you then.